Adrienne here from Alice Scraps Wonderland with another process video for you. And this time I'm doing a mixed media canvas. And I'm starting out with some modeling paste and a stencil. I'm just applying that with my Prima Finnabair brush. And I'm just cleaning at the edge of the canvas there. I think it adds great texture and dimension to the base of your canvas. Next, I'm just using some white gesso, and I'm going to give an initial coat to some elements that I'm going to be applying to my canvas. And I'm just making sure I give good coverage on this first coat to everything. These are some old paint brushes that aren't good for using to create anymore and are great for upcycling, so I'm adding gesso to them to add to my project. And now I'm just using my heat tool to give a little bit of a dry to these elements so I can head on to the next step. I'm taking this die cut from Kaiser Craft and some minty blue colored paper and cutting out 2 of those die cuts for use later. And now I'm going to start with the process of painting the background of my canvas, and I'm just using my fingers to apply it to the canvas, and I wet it down with a little bit of water, just sprayed it on there so that it'll kind of blend and the paint will spread a little bit easier. And I'm using this really pretty lavender impasto paint from Prima, and I'm also using the mint one later. And you can see I'm adding more water again, and I'm just continuing to work the paint into the canvas. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Just do what you like and keep blending until you get what you want. Next, I'm using a texture paste from Ranger, this opaque crackle. It comes out white when dried, and it gives this lovely crackle effect. And I'm applying this over the canvas to mute these colors, and also so that when the crackle paste dries, you should see a little bit of the color popping through in those cracks. And of course, the thicker you put this crackle paste on, the bigger the cracks will be. The thinner the layer of paste that you put on, the finer the cracks. So just play around with it and have some fun. Now I'm going to be using Prima's Heavy Body Gel to apply a few of those elements to my canvas. And I'm just using a palette knife to put a little bit on there. Sorry, it's a little bit off camera, but you get the idea. And I'm just going to press that down. And I'm also lifting up the canvas so I can press from the bottom, get a better press onto the canvas. And now I'm just adding a few of these metal filigree elements as well. And I'm just going back in with a slightly damp brush to get rid of some of that excess heavy body gel. And now I'm going back to my white gesso, and I'm just going to give some of those elements a second coat of gesso. And now I'm going back in and I'm going to give a second coat of gesso to some of these elements. So I'm not quite ready to adhere to the canvas, but I want to make sure that they have a good coat of gesso on them before I put them on the canvas. This butterfly bent the wings up on it, so I'm making sure to get the back of it as well on the wings. And again, I'm just going over lightly with my heat tool to give those a little dry so I can push them out of the way. And I'm also doing the same again with these paint brushes that I'm going to add to my canvas and giving them another coat of gesso. I'm now ready to add more elements to my canvas, so I'm going back in with my heavy body gel, and I'm putting a little bit on the frame where I want to place my paint brushes. And just keep adding the heavy body gel adhesive until you get enough for things to stick well. You can always go back in later and clean up. I know I definitely had to. And now to adhere this metal butterfly, it's got a little bit of a concave backside. And so in order to adhere it quick enough to the canvas, I'm going to be using a little bit of this chipboard from some old packaging to kind of fill that in so that it's not just all heavy body gel. That would take a really long time for it to dry, and I don't want it to take that long. And now you can see I'm going back in and cleaning up some of the mess. Next, I'm going to adhere those dies that I had cut out previously to my canvas, and I'm just going to cut them down just a little bit so that they can fit around that chipboard frame. And I'm going to use my heavy body gel again to adhere this. I'm just rubbing a little bit of it on the back of these die cuts with my finger and giving it a good press. And because I'll be putting flowers where those die cuts are at there next to the frame, I used a little bit more heavy body gel to adhere down by wiping over it. And I'm just fixing my little butterfly that I knocked out of place. And now I'm going to put the flowers on the canvas. And of course, I'm going to use my heavy body gel again. This really is my go-to adhesive for mixed media projects and adding flowers to my scrapbook pages. That's just a little chipboard butterfly wing that I cut cut the butterfly in half so I have 2 halves. Some of these other elements that I have for putting on my canvas are items from Prima. Some of them I've had stashed away for a while. You probably recognize the tin hearts. And some of these are little metal filigree items that I just purchased on Amazon. And I think they're great for adding different textures to your canvas. Some of them are smooth, some of them are have texture, so it's a great mix. This last metal filigree item that I'm adding to my canvas is a little ornamental thing that I cut in half so that I could add a Tim Holtz quote token in between the pieces. And I'm just using the quote token to kind of figure out about how far apart I should be gluing these 2 items onto my canvas. And now I'm just going back in with a slightly wet brush and a wet wipe to clean off the excess heavy body gel. And before my heavy body gel completely dries, I'm going to add a little bit of this metallic silver thread to my project by tucking it underneath my flowers. And I'm just nesting it up a little bit until I kind of like the way it looks and tucking it under there. And if you guys haven't noticed, I now have a band-aid on my finger because I cut myself with my really sharp Tim Holtz snips. I love these scissors, but guys, be really careful when using them. I just was not paying any attention and my finger was just a little too close. And I just keep adding thread and wrapping it until I like the way that it looks and it's tucked in well enough that it's not going to fall off my project after everything dries. Now I'm going in with some soft gloss gel. I'm going to be adding some art stones to the center of those metal filigree flowers. And the soft gloss gel is the perfect way to adhere these. I just dip my brush into the soft gloss gel and then into the cap full of art stones and then just brush it onto my project. It takes a little getting used to trying to get them onto your project. You just have to keep manipulating them until you get the look that you want. And now I'm going to use some pop foam dots to adhere this quote token. And I'm just going to apply it to the canvas in between the two filigree metal items and then pop that token right onto it. And now I'm going to go in with some Opal Magic paints and some of these melange from Prima. And they're the clear ones. And I'm just going to lightly brush some of the gold violet Opal Magic onto the backs of these melange gems. I just love the way it makes them look after they're dried. And now I'm going back in with some impasto paints to paint over the gessoed items that I added to my canvas. And I'm just adding some water to get the paint to flow real easily onto my canvas and items. And just keep adding paint until you like the way that everything looks. Everything is always blendable, and once you dry it, you can always go back in and correct anything by painting over it with gesso later, or just blending in a different color of paint. You guys can even dry brush some of your flowers a little bit if you like. It's totally up to you. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do mixed media. It's all about thinking outside of the box and being creative and just doing what you like. Don't be afraid to turn your canvas and pick it up and make sure that you look at it from every angle so that you don't miss any spots when painting. I just really love how this lavender and mint color turned out together. It's just so beautiful, and it really matches another embellishment that I'll be adding on at the very end. And once I've got everything painted the way I like, I'm just going in with my heat tool again to give it a little bit of a dry. And now I'm going to be using an Opal Magic Art Wax to add just a little bit of shimmer to my project. I'm just going over some of the high points that I want to highlight with this. It's the turquoise satin Opal Magic, and I just love the way that it just brought out a little bit more of that blue color in the mint. And you can see that I've now kind of placed those gems that I painted earlier onto my canvas about where I think I want them. And now I'm going to add heavy body gel to the back of them to stick them down to my canvas. And again, don't be afraid if you accidentally use too much heavy body gel. You can always go back in with a slightly wet paintbrush to clean up your mess. The great thing about it is that it dries clear, so even if you miss some, you probably won't see it too much. And now for the finishing touches, I'm going to be adding one of these beautiful Renea Bouquets butterflies to the middle of the metal butterfly. I'm just going to bend the wings slightly so that it fits inside of that metal butterfly, which I bent. And I'm going to be using some heavy body gel just to adhere the back of it. And for the last final touch, I'm just going to be adding a few of these gems that I bought at Hobby Lobby. They already have a little bit of an adhesive on the back of them, but I live in a really arid climate and they dry up and fall off my projects. So I'm just going to be adding some heavy body gel onto the back of them to adhere them really well to my canvas. And that's it. I hope you guys really enjoyed this process video and that it inspired you to make your own mixed media canvases. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more inspirational projects like this.